everyone, and welcome to the Playing with Power podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things cedh, EDH, and Magic the Gathering. I'm your host, TK.
And I'm Alana. I'm here for the snarky, meta comments, control under real, play Grixis, etc.
And today we are going to be talking about the Mox Masters Invitational. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. Our merchandise is now available in our store. We have dice, coins, playmats, tokens featuring all of your favorite PWP members, sleeves, and more, all available. Go to playingwithpowermtg.com and help support the channel. You can also support us on Patreon. Patrons get access to our Discord, webcam league, playdays, early access to videos, names in the credits of our shows, exclusive videos, merchandise, and the ability to be on an episode. Our brand new Mox Emerald tier is sure to get you access to everything you'd want and need. And even if that tier isn't for you, there are tiers for everyone. So go to patreon.com/playingwithpowermtg and help support the show. Also, if you are looking to sponsor the podcast itself, please reach out in the email below. With that being said, let's get into it. So, Alana, we have just did the Mox Masters Invitational. How do you feel? That was a really big thing for us. That was something, like a year in the making, I think. I was talking to Hire about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of Drake's little child.
Yeah.
To do like a long-term invitational event. You build up points towards the end of the year, and then you compete in the final big event. So it was really fun. I had to commentate for the first time, which was really fun.
Yeah. And you did amazing, by the way. I've gotten so many comments. It was like, oh, yeah, Alana did great. Alana did amazing. I was like, I know. Yeah. So definitely.
It was super fun. Turns out talking about Magic is really fun when you really like Magic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But no, it was really cool. There were a lot of people I knew there. People had done well in other events and in Mox Masters. I think the only thing that I was disappointed about was that we couldn't get the European people there. It's hard for them to travel to an in-person qualifier, but it's something we hope to address in the future. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a ton of players that I definitely would have liked to see, from the European side, just for that competition. Definitely. But definitely, hopefully, to see them out next year when we do it again. As far as the main event, we had 52 people. In the actual invitational itself, we had an open, which I think was also around 50 people, or 60.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, and then
58.
Yeah, it was really up there. And then the LCQ, the last chance qualifier for the actual event, was I think exactly 60. So a lot of people came out, a lot of people playing. All of these events going on are just around the same time. And as far as the main event is concerned, you've probably seen it if you're tapped in to the community. Malcolm Kedis took the entire thing. I don't think anybody was expecting that.
I can't lie. Still a little salty about it, but it was fine. I had someone at locals argue with me earlier. They're like, "Oh yeah, and I think that deck is really good." And I'm just like, I think the thing's just aligned. I think it just aligned for them. Good for them. There was a well played game in game one of the finals, and the lucky here's my hard to interact combo in game 3, and good for them. Sometimes it pays to be lucky.
Yeah, it worked out. And I think also, I've been talking to a lot of people too, and as with all of these events, you get people who are like, oh, this means I have to buy out Kedis, and Glinthorn Buccaneer is gonna rise up in price for a little bit. And it's not really. I think if anything, this event really shows that just knowing your deck, picking your deck, and really understanding how to play the game of Magic and being good at your skills, I think is really what is the takeaway here. Not necessarily that Malcolm Kedis is the best deck of the format.
I think, it's really everyone wants to play the best deck, or they want to win, or whatever your goals or motivations are. I think that's kind of why this format is loved by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is that you can just take games with anything, right? Like you could totally. I just we played a game locally for fun one time where we had 3 cedh decks and a precon. And the precon killed all of us because it had like 2 8/8s, and we're like, "Oh, we can't deal with that."
It's nothing. I've got nothing
I
here.
got nothing with that.
Looking at all your counter spells, it's just on the board. You're like,
Yeah, I'm
okay,
just like 8/8 trample token. No, I can't deal with that.
exactly. Yeah.
And
No.
obviously, like if you're competing in these events time and time again, you want to play the more consistent, more powerful decks in our format. But I think if you do really love a deck, there's no reason you can't try and push it as far as possible. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. If you're really committed to the deck, and it seems as that James was with his, if you're really committed to a build,
yeah,
and
he's really love the deck.
yeah, you
I
just
know. He went to Adam, the Mana Vault vendor, there right before finals, and he bought a Japanese Malcolm and Japanese Kedis, I think, because it's very funny.
that's it.
He
I
didn't
mean,
even
if you
like
win,
he was even like, oh yeah, like this is gonna rise in price when I win finals. It was like I don't think so, but hey, he got the confidence. So
yeah, exactly. And then immediately after, the new Malcolm was spoiled, and so it's like, right, yeah,
yeah,
um, yeah. No, it's crazy. But in terms of like all of the decks, though, Final Four, we had what Malcolm Caddis, Narset, new Narset, piloted by Kai.
Narset
Uh,
Narset a lot. The
yeah,
semifinals game was for him was very intense. 2 people trying to win on the stack, I think, if I remember right, and it was a very interesting. I think he won finally on like top of a Ranger Captain Crack, which is always a fun time.
super fun because yeah, you don't want me to cast spells, but what if I just do it before? What if I just
Yeah.
do it faster?
In response, I'd like to win the game.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you're trying to stop me. However, what if you just didn't? What if it didn't
Yeah.
work? Yeah. Clark Silas, another brew. A
That
lot of
would,
people.
yeah. I think I like to think of cedh as kind of a high roll format sometimes, where like you're mulliging very aggressively for these like hands that actually like do something, and Clark kind of amplifies that a little bit, right? You're like, okay, well, if I win the 50/50, I get to demonic tutor twice. Like, yeah, I think as a Grixis shell, it'll always be good regardless of the commanders, I think, for the most part. I think,
Yeah.
Anala kind of proves that, although you do get the emblem with Anala, but you kind of just do normal Grixis things. But like this, it's just a Grixis shell. So I think it's just going to be good no matter what your commanders are. And then Krark kind of adds this like weird high roll element. It also, though, I realized watching finals and commentating finals, I was like, man, it also can like make your breach lines really awful
Oh,
sometimes, right? Because you're like,
just god
oh, I
awful.
only have enough fuel to escape the spell once. And then Clark's like, oh yeah, bounce that to your hand. It's like, oh wait, no. But I needed that.
Stop.
Yeah. So I think it's like this very weird high roll Grixis shell that like I think it could pay off if you get lucky, but I don't think it's something. And I think even Richie told me, he's like, I'm never playing this again after this event, which is kind of funny. So
Yeah, it's I we'll probably talk about it more when we like actually get into the deck list. But yeah, Krark is one of those commanders. It takes all of the brain power out of you just to cast a
it
Gitaxian
really
probe.
does.
Like,
It's like it's also hard to play. You don't really have a plan. I mean, you do, but
right.
then Craig's like, nah, like this spell doesn't resolve. Sorry, go like back to your hand. It's like, but but please, like
I like to counter the spell. Maybe.
yeah, like there were
Possible.
I played Karksaka for fun, quote unquote,
Yeah.
like a few months ago, or maybe even a year ago now at this point. But like, and there was one point where I lost 7 flips in a row, and I was just like, I can't
God.
play this deck.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't play this deck. This is demoralizing.
It's one thing
Like,
when you have to play against 3 other people, but when you also have to play against your deck too, it's like, ouch,
yeah,
this
I
is
have to
really
play
hard.
against like 50/50 coin flip. It was better than a 50/50. So I think I had like three quirks,
Yeah.
and I literally needed to win. I need to win like 1 or 2, and I think I could like gone off, and it was just like, no, you lose 7 times in a row. I'm just like, this shouldn't be possible,
Why
and
is
yet
this happening?
and yet it happened. So Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm not a fan. That turned me off the deck. I immediately took it apart. But you know what? Good for you if you want to like throw your luck into a coin flip. But I don't think I'm strong enough.
Hey, gambler addiction is real. Then
True.
we have the last one was cedh, and that's kind of not as spicy of a brew, but boy is it consistent. It's good. Who knew
I just
tutoring
think
was
that deck
great?
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was really impressed with oh, what's his name? Malcolm.
Mm,
Malcolm, who plays Sese a bunch at Punt City 2. He top 16, top 4, I think, Punt City 2. And I like looked at his list and I was like, wow, this is like really similar to what I was working on before I put the deck down, except like in the time I put it down, we got Tyvar and
mm,
Skrelv, which are like
yeah.
huge additions to the deck. It really wants these cheap legends to really pop off. Um, and the focus on Dockside was something I was kind of moving towards. I was like, because I had tried Rule of Law to say for a while, and I
Yeah.
was just like, it's just not good enough. I just can't, like, I can't deploy these Rule of Law effects and get the Sissy activation and keep her alive and
You're
blah blah
playing
blah.
way
But
too
like,
many, yeah, like
it's too
fires at the same
many,
time. Yeah.
yeah. And then like, but like this explosiveness of like, okay, Dockside, copy Dockside, activate Sisse, get something that copies Dockside again. Like just chaining these Dockside activations was where I was moving towards, and I like decided to not pull the trigger, and I took the deck apart for a while,
Mhm.
and then I was like, oh, this is what Malcolm's doing, and he top four. Like, okay, that makes sense. That's like okay, my idea went somewhere, but he just like had the foresight to see it through. Um, and I think that it's just the deck attacks the game in a very different way than most of the meta decks. It's like, and you can't really devote a lot of your deck to stopping this one deck because it's
No.
not that
Yeah.
popular of a deck.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not a lot of people play it, and uh, yeah, it's hard to stop. You just have to remove Sisse, and even if you do remove Sisse, sometimes that's not enough.
Yeah.
Um, Janna, Oppo are like the best answers to it. But it just it attacks on this really unique axis that's hard to stop,
Yeah.
and I think that's why it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you can toolkit your entire deck, it's really hard to kind
Yeah,
of counter something like that. Like, yeah, you can do Oppo, but even then now they're playing 5 color good stuff just with a bunch of legendary creatures, and so
yeah.
it can really switch that.
There have been a few games where the Sisse like is tutoring or whatever. I'm just like, just counter it. Just it gets dockside. Like I don't get like I can't interact with dockside, but I can interact with the tutor. Like just put the tutor in the graveyard. Like this dockside makes like 8. We're dead. Just like please.
Stop it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also a deck that's like so evergreen because wizards will always print
There
legendary
will
creatures.
always print legends. Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
always get upgrades. It'll always get interesting things to do. It's kind of why it's nice to like play the deck a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but like I I think I hope with it becoming more readily like popular and putting up results consistently that people will actually like know what this deck does and know the lines of this deck, because I feel like a lot of the times I see it win, it's just people just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm in the game, I'm trying to tell them like, hey, we have to interact with this or we're dead. And they're like, oh no, it's fine. And then like suddenly the Sisse has 3 fairy on board and we're dead. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
tried to tell you guys like this was the point of interaction, but yeah.
Yeah, literally, you get one tutor out. Like, as somebody who has also played like Sisse for a little bit, my favorite thing was like Tyvar Sovala, because it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get Tyvar and then go for Sovala and then immediately tap Sovala and get all this mana and then just keep going. And it's like, oh, you were supposed to interact with me like way back. We're
Yeah,
way too
way
far
way
gone
earlier.
now.
Yeah, SSI is this thing, and like I think it speaks to like some of, I don't know, like I don't want to say like inexperience, but just like maybe greed. There's a lot
Yeah,
of greed in our format, and it's just like, no, I want to save this for my turn or like to win or blah blah blah. But like sometimes there's that tipping point of like, no, you kind of need to interact now. Like it doesn't matter
absolutely.
if we
Yeah.
won't get to your turn. Like,
Exactly. But yeah, that was top
oh,
4. It was a very interesting top 4.
oh.
one thing to note, there was only one Grixis pile, really. That was it. Just one. And I know a lot of people themselves have probably, thought that this format was still in kind of that Grixis sort of storm thing. But I feel that card quality has gotten up now that, like you said, anybody could kind of pick up a pile of cards, and if they really tool it
Yeah, I
enough.
think that's the thing about free for all, right? Is like I don't think I don't think you can argue very well that Grixis isn't the best thing to be doing. However, in a free for all format, you can kind of combat that, be like, well, they're doing the best thing, so we need to focus on them, right?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for like kind of having a strong deck, but sitting in the corner and being like, oh, I'm like, I'm this Just Sky pile. What does their set even do, guys?
Yeah.
It's so weird. Oh,
The
you're
final
dead.
fortune in my grave. What are you talking about? I can't do nothing with
Yeah,
that. Don't read the card.
yeah. I think it speaks to like a lot of good players I know are the ones that are like it doesn't you need to know what a deck does, and you need to like evaluate the deck baseline like when the pod comes together, but you also need to constantly reevaluate what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
Because like just because like, ooh, scary Grixis pile, like they have breach, whatever, that's fine and everything. But you like as soon as like the cedh player has like slammed Dockside for 7 and has Dockside on the battlefield and cedh out and is going into their next turn, you need to be like, you need to be scared. You need to have the proper amount of fear for what the game state evolves into, besides just like, oh, this deck I'm very afraid of. I've lost to it a bunch. I need to like spend all my resources on it.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of that just comes with reps. A lot of people, like you said, not a lot of people do play cedh, and so a lot of people will see that deck and be like, I have an idea, a vague idea of what this deck does. I'm just going to wait till I see something that I recognize because, oh, yeah, every deck does the same thing, and that's just really not the case.
There's a lot of like, sometimes like when a deck I don't understand a deck, or I don't understand why a deck is good, or like I don't know how to interact with a deck, I go play the deck.
Yeah.
Right. Like I feel like maybe this isn't the case, but a lot of people like play one deck, right? They're like, I like this deck, I'm gonna play this deck, I'm gonna play this deck, I'm gonna play this deck.
Yeah.
And I think you really need to play everything. You need to play everything in the format. You need to have reps on everything.
Yeah.
Because when you play something yourself, you kind of see the choke points, and you kind of see like what is devastating to the deck you're playing. Like, oh, when this happens to me, I just can't do anything. And then when you're playing against that deck, you know that, right? Like, you know that like if so like X happens, you're like, okay, well, they're out of the game. Like I don't have to worry about them anymore. Exactly. And I think more people need to do that. Hi, Kai, you're very cute. Yeah, I think our format has like a lot of people who love one deck, and that's great. And you can have your favorite deck, and you can play it all the time. And I'm the same way. I have a favorite deck. I play it a lot. But like, if there's a deck you don't understand, I think you need to play it. I think cedh is probably the biggest one, where like they're like, oh, just what does it do? What happens? I don't even know the combo lines. It's like, well, you should go play the deck.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And again, that could be difficult because there are so many different versions of cedh too. Like you have the Tudor Chains version, which is the popular version, but I've seen people who are playing the Kiki Jiki lines, as a package.
That's fair. I mean, I think you just take the most popular one off of like EDH Top 16, or like a tournament that you've been in, or like a tournament you lost to it and something, and go play it. If you play on Spell Table, you can play it on Moxfield Tester. It's not that hard to set up with OPS.
Yeah.
And most people are okay with that. I think like just so many times I see like unfamiliarity with decks or like lines, and I think you should go play them. If you're unfamiliar with something, go play it. I know like unfamiliarity can be scary.
Yeah.
But like I think it is actually just the best way to improve. Like if you like just play a lot, play different decks, play different things, play something you're uncomfortable with. It would be a huge benefit to everyone.
Absolutely. Read the card. It tutors as an activated ability. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, stop it. Read it. It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. Don't let it activate. I don't think everyone has gotten the joke yet. I think everyone's got the joke on Winota.
Yeah.
Winota, no triggers. We don't let Winota trigger. We don't let it on the field. It's dead. It's gone.
Yeah.
I treats to say the same way. Like I don't want it on the field. I don't want it there. I don't want to think about it. Like the deck kind of falls apart if it's not there, and I would like it to not be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you go ahead and draw.
And that is
whatever.
one piece of advice I could give. Like, if you're not familiar with a deck and you think that the deck is doing something unique with its commander, just get rid of the commander. Commander's gone. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, it's like I don't know what you're doing, but your commander's dead. It's gone. Put it in the graveyard, please.
Counter it. I have seen that so many times. Yeah, of like
get it out.
Yeah, people will come in with like some kind of, I don't know, like commander from the backlogs of like, I don't know, like all the way back in Tempest and something like that, and I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Where is this card even coming from? I don't even want to read it. Fine, I won't have to. It's gone.
I won't have to. It's gone.
Goodbye.
Please put it back in your command zone. I would not like to deal with this, so we're moving on. Play. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, so that was the top 4, and pretty much the entire weekend was filled with a bunch of like unusual decks we don't see often, and I think that's one of the great and not so great things. It's great, I think, as sitting from our seat as like commentators, being able to see these brews that we don't get to see often, because it's entertaining, to see decks that you don't see when you're playing on Spell Table, you don't see when you go to your LGS, you don't see often do well, because it's entertaining. It makes for games that you can't really dissect as well as before. However, as a grinder or somebody who goes to these tournaments and tries to compete, it's really hard to get a hold on the meta like you can with these 60 card formats that have all of these data and everything else, and you get it from your LGSs and everything. Yeah.
I think it's like there is this like wild notion of like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I'll do my best. Like, I feel like either metas are stacksy or mid-range or fast, and it doesn't particularly matter in Commander since it's so like free-for-all. It's so variance heavy.
Yeah.
You can't really like at least in 60 card, you can be like, oh, I'm going to see a lot of this one deck, and I fight against this one deck in a very specific way. But once you have multiple opponents, the context of the game can change a lot. And so I kind of like go into tournaments like, well, is it going to be really mid-rangey, or is it going to be really fast, or is it going to be really stacksy? And like what this triangle of like, what can you beat with what deck? And and a lot of these like grindy metas, I want to go under them, right? I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to let them set up their value engines. If they do set up their value engines, I want to punish them for it and kill them, right? So I want to play a fast deck.
Yeah.
If we're really stacksy, like if I'm going to see like 2 stacks players per pod, I want to be the mid range player. I'll just sit back. I just and that's kind of like where I am. And sometimes it's hard when you're traveling because you're like, you don't know the local players very much. You're like, oh, what will I expect? Like, so you kind of have to like reach out to people who live in the area and be like, oh, like what do you usually see? So, it's very interesting in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, and also because our format is growing too, like the visibility that we have is less so than that of like 60 card as well. So you can't just like look up. I mean, you can look up a primer for like what is the de facto T and K list, but there's so much variance because we are in a 100 card singleton format versus I can go card for card and tell you probably what's in every mono green devotion deck right now in Pioneer, or like a
exactly. Yeah, you in our format, you could just get blown out by like random cards. Like a great example locally, my friend Jason loves the card Mystic Reflection. almost not played in any. It's played a small amount in some decks in our format, and it's just not a card I think about, right? I don't care. Like, I don't think about it. Like, you have one blue up. Oh, you have like a Swan Song, right?
Yeah.
Or like a counter spell. Like you have something like that.
Yeah.
And then like my friend goes, "Well, yeah, I'm gonna Mystic Reflection your Crick," or like I'm gonna Mystic Reflection your Dockside. I'm just like, what? Like wait, what? Like, okay, I wasn't playing around that, but yeah, you got me, right? And then you lose the game on the spot, right? And that can happen sometimes in this format. You're just like, there are things, there's so much variance that sometimes just things are out of your control, which feels not great sometimes.
Yeah.
But you try to minimize that variance as much as possible, and sometimes you just have to accept it. So.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Card Conduit. Do you have extra cards lying around that you don't use? Want to buy or trade for some extra cards but don't know how to maximize the value? Then you should try out Card Conduit. Card Conduit is the best service when it comes to selling your extra cards. Don't waste hours trying to find the best buy list price for your cards online. Simply send them to Card Conduit and let them take care of the rest. I've used Card Conduit multiple times already. I always use them to get the best value of my extra cards. I get fair prices for my cards and they save me tons of time. They have 3 main services. Their standard service lets you send them unsorted cards of any value. They will sort, grade, and give you the best buy list price for your cards. Their curated service is similar. Send them your unsorted cards worth over $1 in value. They will charge half of the fee of the standard service and charge no fee per card. Their new sorted service is a great value as well. Choose cards in advance with their selection tool, send them sorted to Card Conduit, and they will grade and buy list them automatically. Save yourself the time of having to send to multiple sites and let Card Conduit do it instead. Their fee is only 2% with no fee per card. They give you the best price for your cards. They work with competitive buy listing partners, including ones not open to the public. Users get an average of 19% more for their collection than they would have from a major retail buy list, even with Card Conduit's fees. Card Conduit also optimizes buy listing for card condition as well. Since vendors have different penalties for wear and tear, Card Conduit will find the best buy list price against the specific condition of a card. So give Card Conduit a try today. If you sign up with my link in the show notes or the description, or use the promo code POWER, you'll also get 10% off their fees when you use their service. A big thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring today's podcast.
I guess now we should really get into the top 16 lists, kind of see what kind of variance was cooking at this event specifically.
Yeah, well, I don't remember seeing too much. So there's a few spicy things going on, but we can quickly go through. We'll just go from, I don't know, a 16 to 1. This is Hall's Team K list. I would be very surprised if this is like just not completely standard. Like I'm going through right now and I just don't see anything. Because I'm Born Upon a Wind, which I think is cute. I like Born Upon a Wind a lot more when you have Necropotence in the deck, but which Necropotence is not here. But Born Upon a Wind can be a very strong effect. So if there was any spice in this list, I think that would be it. Everything else looks pretty standard. I don't really see anything out of place here.
Yeah.
This is Team K Breach Oracle. I'll kill you. I love seeing Touch of Spirit Realm on Team K. There are a bunch of like people putting it in Mardu lists a while ago, and I was like, I want to put that in Team K. Yeah. And so I put it in Team K for Silicon Dynasty, and it did really well. And I've seen it more and more in Team K. That's what makes me happy. But it's a very channel is a very powerful effect.
God, I love Channel so much. I put those lands in everything. I don't care. It's so great. The rush that I get from like Besejuing anything when a win attempt is going on.
Beseju is always like top. Like when I'm going for a breach line and like someone has 1 green mana open, a legendary creature, or 2 mana and open one of those green or whatever, what have you. If they have the ability to have Beseju, I'm just like, I'm playing around this to like as much as I can. Do I have the ability to? Because I am. I'm not getting blown out by Beseju again.
Absolutely.
We're having Swat Up. Swat Up is all open throughout the entire combo. I think the funniest story about that is I was playing around Beseju from one player because that's just what I usually do. And then like halfway through my line, I like looked over and I was like, wait a minute, Beseju is on your battlefield. Like he played it as a land. I was like, oh, never mind. Like, I don't need to do this.
Oh, it looks like free eats. We're going. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, never mind. We're good. We're good.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but the funniest part is that as soon as I think the first thing I escaped, he enduranced, and so it ended up actually like being good because I tutored for SWAT. And
Yeah.
I was like, because I want to play around Baseitu. And then he endurance me. I was like, oh, well, this also works. So, it ended up being good that I did think I usually do. It was very funny. It was like, wait,
Yeah.
Baseitu on this battlefield.
Not.
So 15
Yeah.
of this Kevin, Kevin was really nice throughout the weekend, but he was on Yidris, and Yidris is a very cool commander. I
Oh
did kind
yeah.
of actually pretty happy at top 16. I don't know how good the deck can actually be, but I think Yidris is just a very cool commander.
Yeah, this was one of my first commanders when I was like learning the format. It was like this in Cass, and I was like, wow, like it's really fun to cascade, but it's really powerful too. Just to like go
Wow.
into all of your different permanents off of the
Yeah,
cascade
I'm
trigger.
like
It's
looking.
really
I'm like,
cool.
okay, so we have what are our cascades? We have inevitable betrayal, and we
Yeah.
can get a creature card. So we get Dockside and put it onto the battlefield. That seems pretty good.
Yep.
We can profane tutor. We get a free demonic tutor. We can wheel of fate.
Wheel of Fate. Yeah, all
I
of
feel
the
like that one could
good.
be pretty awkward. Everything else looks like 4-color Nas. Basically, is also on Born Upon a Wind. I really like, but like Born Upon a Wind, like beats Ranger Captain, which is like one of the most prevalent cards in the format. That card is so annoying. It's so
Yeah.
frustrating. No one wants to try and win once it hits the battlefield because they're like, I'll just get Ranger Captain.
Yeah.
And then we make it back to the other player's turn and they have Ranger Captain and they win. I'm just like, I hate this card. Card is so hard to deal
It
with.
sucks so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, like when creature removal doesn't stop, like the best combos in the format, you get like these really good creatures that just kind of do things and they become very annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to play around too, because of the sacrifice ability. So yeah,
It's very hard. I think that's why Born is really nice. I don't see anything super spicy. I think I see Sonic Creation, which
yeah,
I
that's
love
what I
this
was gonna
card.
ping up. Yeah.
Like Sonic Creation is such a cool card. Yeah, cascading into Sonic Creation sounds like a drug. I don't know if you can you cascade. I guess you could Nas and then cascade into it. That's kind of funny.
And yeah, the discard your hand, I guess, is kind of relevant with the Wheel of Fate, but I mean, by that point, you're trying to
Yeah,
win.
I think if you're putting cascading and or putting Sonic Creation into the battlefield, you're just winning the game.
You're trying to
right?
win. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
Other than that,
I don't see anything else too spicy in here. We're on most of the normal like Grixis pile stuff with like some green cards thrown in.
yeah, Tinderwall,
Yeah.
Birds of Paradise. That's it, really, on the creature side.
Yeah,
for
we got
green.
Colleen, Manamorphose, Noxious. I'm curious about I guess Manamorphose fixes really well for like Necropotence and like Beseech the Mirror, which is nice since you're a 4-color deck. So I guess that makes some amount of sense. Yeah, nothing too super spicy. I would not expect from like a Idris list. And then we have the same colors doing similar things, just not cascading. We have Thrasios File from Max.
Yeah. This one threw
This
me
is
off.
like
Yeah.
the most I am Adnaz deck I have ever seen. Where like just an Oracle Adnaz breach deck. I think the only thing that I'm surprised about in this is the Kinnan Basalt combo. Makes sense that it's you have Thrasios as an infinite mana outlet. I know Max has been doing really well with this list lately. I wonder maybe more people should pick it up. But I'm not sure. I don't think you get too much value out of your commanders, but it is just like good 4-color pile. So I don't think you can really go wrong there.
You get the infinite mana. I mean, Thrasios just does kind of just win you the game right there. So I mean, it makes sense.
We have our first Atraxa list from Vincent. I still don't understand why this deck is good. I might need to play it. I might need to take my own advice and play it.
Listen,
because I still don't get it.
I played it, during our downtime over the weekend, and I got blown. Granted, I was playing with Ian and Max, but still, just absolutely blown out. I am also on that same thing. I don't know why. I just feel like
it's Timnathras, but with a 7-mana commander. So I I have a hard time conceptualizing why it's good. I get it. I get the powerful thing that Atraxa does. I understand that, but like 7 mana for my commander to just get like red blasted or something. Like
Just to have
I
food chain when I could play
yeah, to have
Rocco.
food chain. I know some. I was told, some lists don't even play food chain. I was like, shouldn't we be on food chain? Like, I have a hard time conceptualizing this deck. Like, it is just a 4-color pile, so I get it. Like, you could just kind of take some games with that,
Yeah.
and maybe like, oh, I get stopped. I'm in the late game. I cast my commander. I refuel, and like maybe that's good enough. I don't know. I don't see it. I'm still like surprised how well inconsistent the numbers are for this deck. So yeah, maybe I'll have to play it in the near future.
I was just about to say,
what's up.
I apologize to any of the Atraxa players out there. Maybe I'm just a
Yeah.
dumb baby, but I
I
get it.
too. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's good. It's so good. It's so good. I'm just like, I don't get it. I've never looked at a pod and been like, oh, you're on Atraxa. I'm scared. That's never happened to me. I don't get it. I really don't. I'm sorry, Atraxa players. I don't understand it. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe your deck is too Galaxy Brain for me. I'm just not on the hype train.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think it's a four color. It has good spells in it. Like, like I don't hate any of the cards in here. I think the Grand Arbiters are kind of cute. Like, but I don't see it. You have blue and black, so you have Thassa's Oracle. Maybe that's good enough.
Yep. And next we have a Kinnan deck. Here piloted by Sean. Yeah,
this looks like a Kinnan deck.
This is Kinnan straight down to the Consecrated Sphinx.
Is Aboleth on? Is that a Ken staple? Whenever a creature entering the battlefield under your opponent's control causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger it, you may copy that ability. Is this? I don't think I see this very often. I've seen it like once. So maybe that's our spicy card. I mean, you get like what? Copy a Dockside, activate Kinnan, I guess. Is this one like, I guess Glenn? I've liked Glenn. Every time I've seen Glenn and Kinnan, I've been very impressed. Like, I don't really want to cast Glenn for 4, but it's doable.
Yeah.
And then flipping Glenn like end step as Kinnan has just got to feel really good.
So honestly. Good. So good. It's the best drug I've been on lately. I love it. That and yeah, the Consecrated Sphinx. It's all here, all the standard stuff.
Oh yeah, this got the Void Winnower, the Thorn Mammoth. Yeah.
Perplexing Chimera. Last March. Is he on? Wait, before we get to Last March, is he on the Homeward Path lock? No, we're not.
I don't see it. No. Wait, we're on Last March of the Ends. The spell can be 8 mana. Can't be countered. Draws cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you roll. Then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. I mean, you do make a lot of mana as Kinnan. You're just going to put a bunch of big idiots from your hand on the battlefield. I guess. I don't think it belongs on the deck, but what do I know? I can't play Kinnan.
I have lost to this card before in Raga Draga due to Chris. And that was the one and only time I've ever seen it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
The only powerful words on this card are "this can't be countered." Other than that, it's fine. I guess. Yeah. I think Soul Cauldron is quite good in Kinnan. I really like that card. Has been very impressive.
Oh yeah.
So
good.
Yeah, I think the floor of Kinnan is just very high. It's like Winota without kind of Winota's problems of like, you remove Winota, the deck doesn't do anything. You remove Kinnan, the whole point of the deck is to make mana, and suddenly Kinnan is back again. So I think the every time I see early Drannith against this deck, the deck just kind of flops for the most part. It doesn't have like that much hard removal. Like someone, even if they get it out, they're like, okay, get rid of your Kinnan. Here's Drannith. Like I think Drannith is the bane of this deck, and if you're playing against this deck and you can get an early Drannith out, you should feel fairly safe. They only have. Let's just go through it. They have Sycrift. They would have to hard cast a Thorn Mammoth. They have a March. I guess March works, and they can get their commander down. And then they have Pongify Resculpt, and they can't.
Yep.
They don't have a way to tutor for these things, right? So
Yeah, and Pongify is a
outside
combo piece that they need
mystical
anyways.
tutor,
Yeah.
yeah. So like they have one tutor, mystical tutor, really. Maybe like if they've already made a bunch of mana, they can like one of their creature tutors and like get something. But that's a lot of mana, right? We're talking like
Man.
turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 Janeth, and then I don't have to worry about it hopefully.
Yeah.
The problem is seed order, I guess, because Kinnan is only 2 mana. So if you can't you're not in front of the Kinnan, that can be problematic. But yeah, I think the floor of the Kinnan will still remain to be high.
Absolutely.
It's Kinnan.
Yeah. Big dumb stuff. Deck.
And we have our
really
second Atraxolist from Andy. This is the guy who won SCG Con Columbus. Very, very, very good player. Very tight. Thinks a lot about his turns. But I don't have anything better to say about his list. It's very similar. I
see
someone want to make an argument to me why the deck is good. I'll listen, but I can't promise you'll convince me.
I see Talion and I see Flesh Duplicate. Those are some differences. Flesh Duplicate.
I've been very impressed with Talion in the 99. I think it's a pretty good value engine, honestly. I think the only danger is getting it out early enough, but we have mana crypts, so.
What did you think about Flesh Duplicate this weekend? I know we talked while we were on commentary a little bit about it, but I saw it in everything.
Fine.
Yeah,
I think it's fine. I think the funniest thing to me about it is that like these non-red decks run like 3 to 4 copy effects just to copy Dockside. Like that's insane to me. I mean, it's not that insane because I think the format is just centered around Dockside at the moment because that card is absolutely insane.
Yes.
I'll argue all day about it being like top 2 cards in the format.
Yeah.
I think the card is not okay. You've kept 2 lands in a Dockside and suddenly you can win the game. Like that seems pretty unhealthy, honestly, for any format. I think I mean there's the whole decks that revolve around Dockside, right? Flickering Dockside, copying Dockside, recurring Dockside. Corval kills it, reanimates it a bunch of times and wins the game, right? Like the card is absolutely insane. And I think that non-red decks run 2 to 4 copies to basically just copy Dockside. Obviously, you can copy other things that are good on the battlefield, so they're not like the card doesn't say only copy Dockside, right? But 90% of the time, you're looking to copy Dockside.
That's what
right?
we're trying to do. Yeah,
I think the format revolves a lot around making mana, and Dockside makes mana the most efficiently by far. And copying that is just really good. And I think it's hilarious that non-red decks run all these copy effects to copy Dockside. So I think that's where I am at Flesh Duplicate. Copying Dockside is usually good enough, so I want more effects to copy Dockside, right? It's also better in the sense that like you can flicker it, right? It doesn't die to targeting it like Fimage does. So
yeah. Agreed.
Right, perfect segue into our next deck, which is Dargo Thrasios. Not by Freedom Waffle, funnily enough. But this deck kind of like hinges on Dockside in a way, and not completely, right? You can win without it, but like it's much better if you have it.
Yeah, no, you get a Dockside and suddenly Dargo is on the board and just comboing off. So yeah, it's not as dependent as like you were talking about, like a Corvold, but it absolutely helps the deck by times 10. Like it's
I think I would be curious how many Dargo players have tracked their win rate with a drawing Dockside, not drawing Dockside, but the deck gets a lot better when you get to the power out Dockside. Obviously you can win with ways without it, where you have like a cost reducer or mana producer like Berkey or something, and like stack all that. But I think it gets much harder. It's more pieces to assemble. You're not in black. You can't tutor them. I don't see anything super surprising in this list. Looks fairly straightforward Dargo list to me. Nothing is really popping out. I know you're much more familiar. There's a Con Sphinx, I guess, which is kind of funny.
Con Sphinx is different. I haven't seen it in too many lists, though. I have kind of shifted away from the deck a little bit, so there might be some kind of tech that I'm not aware of. I mean, Kinnan is here, so I guess if you
Yeah.
didn't want to cast it, you could flip into it. There's a lot of creatures that you do want to just get on the board here. So yeah, I could see it. I could definitely think about just making the creature count 16 here and just adding another spell. But yeah, Goblin Bombardment is a card as well that I'm looking at here as well. Sacrifice a creature.
I'd say I've seen one of my
yeah.
locals plays John Nargo a lot, and that's one of his win cons, right? You have Bombardment and like Relic of Legends, or
Yeah, it's definitely something you see in a lot of
whatchamacallit,
Sands.
Berkey.
Yeah, Sands, Thrasios, Dargo plays Goblin Bombardment a lot. It's not something that I've seen too much in Thras Dargo, just because you have so many other ways to go about winning that don't require it. But yeah,
it's pretty standard. I think the deck is fine. I think it abuses Dockside, which is something powerful to do in the format. I don't think it's any mystery that card is insane.
Yeah.
The next deck is all wild cards. It's Edric, and I know LJ himself. This deck is bad. He just likes playing Edric, which is hilarious to me. There are a lot of great cards in here. I don't think giving your opponents a draw is very very good, but he seems to win a lot on the list. And I know he won't defend it as a good deck, so I'm not going to defend it as a good deck for him. I also think it's a terrible deck, but he seems to make it work more often than I would ever imagine.
Yeah, I played against this specific deck list all night, I think, after the Invitational, and I still can't figure out what it's trying to do. I was like,
it just loops turn effects. You take a bunch of extra turns, you hit people, you draw the extra turn effect, you do the thing, you kill them with damage. I just don't think it's good. It's just I feel like LJ puts these like ankle weights on him and he plays Edric and like he still somehow does well. And I'm just like, good for you. Good for you, LJ. Like, you're doing great.
Crazy player for sure. Yeah. There's so much here. There's Shigeki, there's Soratami, Cloud Skater, Subtlety here.
I think it's along just it's just something like if you really like a deck and you're a good player, you can probably make it work sometimes. You might not win all the time, but you might win enough to make yourself happy with your favorite deck. And I think that's exactly what LJ does with Edric. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And then we have Freedom Waffle Mop on Dargo Thrasios next. He ran T and K for this event. I know there's a heartbreaking game in semis, but he played very well.
Yeah.
The only thing I see in here that's not really super standard is Boromir. I've been super impressed with Boromir. It's basically like better Lavinia in some ways. Obviously, you don't stop the Naws for the lane count like Lavinia does, but it also doesn't shut off your opponent's free interaction if you desperately need it, right? Like, I want to lose the game. Okay, I'll sacrifice my Boromir. You can use your Fierce Guardianship now. And I think I value that more than the land thing from Lavinia, because the early Lavinia shutting off Zero Rocks is more impactful to me, in my opinion, and Boromir also does that. Boromir can also be easier to cast because he's 2 white, not blue-white. So I think the amount of times you'll get like blue-white on turn 1 versus like colorless white is either even or favored towards 2 colorless white. So I really like it for that reason. It's also just a 3/3 vigilance. It's really good attacker for Tibnet, which is like not really a reason to run it, but it is a nice bonus effect.
And protects Tibnet too. So like it can be on both sides of that as well. I agree.
I don't see anything else here. Everything else looks pretty standard to me. Yeah.
Good deck. Do good.
Good deck. Good player on good deck.
Yeah, it works.
And then we have Snake, who is also a very good player on the same deck. Timocrum. He's also running Boromir. I would be very pleased. On Sarah Ascendant, which you don't always see in TK, but you see it sometimes. I think Sarah Ascendant says the type of game you want to play. Like, I'm here to sit back and draw cards and hit you for 6. And that is all I'm doing until I have everything I need to win, right? Here's my Grand Abolisher. Here's my win. Like, He's also in Deluge, which is not always standard, but sometimes included if you expect more creatures. I would say that the creatures are kind of on the downturn, at least like creatures you need to wipe. But it can be helpful. I think as a creature deck yourself, like you want to be attacking with Tim Necrom, like I probably wouldn't fit. I like Fire Covenant a lot more, where you can like selectively kill stuff.
Yeah, Fire
I think
Covenant,
I think
Overloaded
it's
Site
fine.
Rift. Yeah, there's some other options, but I guess it'll get the job done. Against
We
maybe big
have
Kinnan board. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think if Big Kinnan has a big board, we have other issues, but it could buy you some more turns.
Yeah.
And then we have Eric on Devesh Krom, his baby, his love. I will always tell him that I think it's just a worse version of Rog Silas. I do think you get a little bit of value from your 5-mana draw engines, and like you do get to mulligan a little bit differently. You get to keep Hands of All Mana, whereas like in Rog's you can't. So I think like it's not strictly worse. There is like something to be said for like keeping Hands of All Mana and like just powering out one of these like draw engines. I will keep telling him to cut Hullbreaker Boar from the deck. He said it didn't matter in his semifinal game when he hit Hullbreaker from off the Nas. He's probably right. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it belongs in the deck. But hey, to each their own. So
yeah. Not much else to say about it. It's good Grixis stuff. The commanders are really the star of the show here.
Still Narset. I think Narset's fine. Like if you don't want people to draw off their Ristics, their Mystics. I think the Deluge is fine when you're like a Tavesh deck. Get all the creatures off the board.
Conqueror's Flail makes sense. You've got
you just play
it
on it for all. You get an actual silence effect in Grixis. I don't see anything else super spicy here. Just the Hullbreaker Horror, really. Conch Flail is like fine. People have been playing it in Wrong Side as well. I think it's a little bit better here in the stack where you can just make a thrall. I think there's some tension in Rog where like, oh, I need to sack my Rog for this tutor, but I also want to equip it with Conch Flail. So like I think sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It really depends.
Next up, we've got Zane on Roxai, which is really good because you just said it. So here it is.
Yeah. Here's the other stack. I think this one's slightly better in my opinion, but I think they're both good decks. Let's see. Did he run? He ran Conch Flail for this event. Looks like he's still on the Infernal Plunge. Yeah. I mean, this looks very standard to me. I know that this is the more like Brian Cook version, like a lot of a density of payoffs rather than being solely focused on add-ons, which I think is the better way to go. People are always hitting the Grixis deck like, oh, I'm so afraid of your add-ons, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna tutor twice and kill you. Like,
and now we got it.
And now we got it. Like, and not to say that like you're wrong for always hitting the add-ons, or it does limit their options, but like, it's not even plan A, B for me anymore. Like it's kind of just like if that happens to be my hand, that like sure, but it's very seldomly am I looking for it. It's like it's fine when it happens, but most of the time I'm not really looking for that add-on. Like it just doesn't come up very often. I think Necro is actually better a lot of the time for this deck, with like the Born Upon a Wind, the Final Fortune effects, stuff like that. But very standard. There's nothing too surprising here. He's still on the grinding station, which I think is you can run it, live without it. I think grinding station enables like some really like early breach wins, whereas like you couldn't do them otherwise. Sometimes we saw Richie win in with grinding station in his semifinals match through a Ristic study, which was really really cool.
Indeed, yeah. I think,
and that's it. We're back to the top four. I don't think there was the decks themselves were spicy. I don't know that any of the cards like were too spicy. I think the Say list looks fairly standard as far as I can tell. I think They're on Talion, which is kind of cool as a draw engine. The deck doesn't draw a lot. And the turtle, I remember mentioning the turtle during commentary. Yeah, the colossal sky turtle channel. Man, channel are such good words. It's also interesting and to say it's like an emergency. Wow, this pivotal legend went to my graveyard. I really need to return it to my hand, which I think is kind of cute.
Yeah. There's a couple of other things here too, like the Niambi and Urtai to be able to just like tutor for
Urtai is pretty cute as like a instant interaction, and then especially to Oracle, it's really funny. And then Nyambe has been pretty standard since Malcolm top 4 with the list because it's a dockside double air for 2 basically.
Yeah.
Well, 4 because you have to recast the dockside, but dockside cedh players usually want the dockside to make 5+ anyway. So
yeah, makes sense. The Oko,
so I like the spell
was doing work. Yeah. Oh, spell sky too. Yeah.
Yeah, Oppo is nice as like toolbox. I've been liking the Dahada include because it just makes 4 treasures for cedh and it has the colors. Because red is a color that's usually pretty hard to get with cedh. So, what else here? I think that's it. The spacey stuff. I think Rocco adds colors to cedh and just gets dockside, which is kind of cute. I think it adds. Yeah, adds enough to just get a meal. So if like dockside makes enough to get a meal and activate, it kind of wins the game on the spot.
Yeah,
like you cast Rocco for 5, get dockside, you can make 8, I guess. So you tutor a meal and then activate 3. Yeah, so if your dockside makes 8, it just kind of wins on the spot, which is pretty cute. I think that's it though. I don't really. It's interesting to see that. Soul Cauldron is very cool if you need like the activated effect. But what do you need the activated effect off of? I guess like Soulvala.
Soulvala, I guess.
Or like one of your big mana dorks, like Bloom Tender or Faber Elder or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Kind of cute.
It could definitely help. Yeah.
I guess you could, once you have infinite mana, you could activate it to get Kinnan to put all your stuff on the battlefield. Yeah, it's like fine. It's not super impressive in this deck, I don't think, but it is like one of the things that cedh can struggle with is if like one of your key pieces has been removed to win the game, it's hard to get them back from the graveyard. So it probably helps with that. There's probably also something I'm missing, I'm sure.
They're gonna comment and be like, "Did you not see this big brain combo?
Did you not see this line with this new card that is 4 steps long?" It is interesting to say Deafening Silence in the sideboard because I do think Deafening Silence is like one of the best cards in cedh to slow the game down a bit. Like I almost would rather have it in the deck over Blinded Beings, as good as Blinded Beings can be. I think Deafening Silence is overall better.
Yeah.
Fairly standard cedh list. We have Richie, as Kark Stylist. He has some cantrips in here, which I assume are just for like Kark value. And he has Merchant Scroll, which is if you want some spice, I think just look at if you're a Grixis player and you want spice, you can just look at this list and play this because it has all the Grixis stuff, but then also like Veyron for Kark and like
Veyron is there,
light up the stage and like Merchant Scroll and like Ponder, like if you want to play these weird cards, Serum Visions and Serum Visions Enjoyers, you can play this deck.
Grab it out of your bulk box, go for it.
For the most part, is fairly standard. We got Frantic Search. We copy the Frantic Search. We make mana. We're going mana positive.
It goes crazy. Yeah.
I think it's the honey roll there, and then we have Kai's in our set list, which is very. I know he's been working a lot on this, and like pretty much the only one working on it, but he's been doing really well on it. So.
Yeah. He's got tons of videos already out as well, explaining kind of this whole list. Yeah. And I don't know if too much has changed, but
very, very, very cute things. She used to mill cards in my graveyard, Burning Inquiry to disrupt my opponents and put things in my graveyard. Anger of the Gods is pretty cute, actually. Get rid of like a lot of things and exile them. Exile those pesky docksides off the battlefield and no one can copy them. I also saw someone in chat during finals, or maybe this time, I don't know. One time Kai was on stream, they're like, oh yeah, Stubborn Denial, she always turns it on, right? Because you get the prowess trigger.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think though you could actually respond to the prowess trigger, and it won't be ferocious if it's the first prowess trigger, which is good
Think
to know.
so? That's cool.
Good to know. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Because like right, Narset would trigger off if it's the first prowess trigger, it would trigger off the stubborn denial, and then you could respond to the prowess trigger, and it would only be pay 1. So something to keep in mind if you play against Kai on Narset.
I was just about to say
I
he's
doubt
typing
Kai
right
would let it
now.
be the first spell unless he absolutely has to. But
Yeah.
I do think Angel's Grace is cute to like Final Fortune twice. I thought that was really really fun during finals. It almost came up, but he was stopped. And then I think Pull for, if you ever want to play Pull from Eternity and cedh, I think the deck should do it. So yeah, quite funny. Exile like one of your spells and then pull it back and do it again. It's pretty cute, honestly.
That's our top 16. Not too much out of the ordinary outside of the commanders, I would say.
I think the more you play cedh, you realize that like the archetypes and the meta are kind of defined by what the colors can provide to you, unless your commander effect is very unique, right? And most people run commanders that are either outlets, mana advantage, or card advantage, right? Because it's just baseline good.
Yeah.
And like, so really what your deck is defined by is like what good cards do your colors have, right? And so like, Grixis, you get the Breach with Black Tutors lines, and Oracle Demonic Constitution, which are like the most efficient things you can be doing. So like the Grixis is really defined by that, and the meta is also defined by that. And then once you branch into green, your win cons, revolve around creatures, because you can find creatures the easiest. So you go into like Kiki stuff, Dockside loops, things like that. Like Dockside is the best creature in the format, right? So generally your deck is looking to take advantage of Dockside in a more like pivotal way, as opposed to just a ritual. And then, white, you have your stacks effects, but you also have Savines. If you like added white to Grixis, you get Savines, and you're kind of like this like more resilient, slower Grixis shell. And I think a lot of the meta is defined by what the colors themselves can do, like what cards are good in this format, and then like you kind of have to build backwards from there, as opposed to like your commander has to be really busted to do something unique, like Nib Mizzet, right?
Yeah.
Like once you get Nib Mizzet on the battlefield, everything is open to you. You're just looking for the curiosity combo, and you get to control the battlefield, because every time someone tries to interact with you, you draw a card. So like you think about your commander has to be that warping to do something outside of like what your colors already do, right? Like most commanders are just enhancing what your colors already do. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people wish that weren't the case, that they wish they're like, I love my commander, I want a commander to do everything. But unfortunately, we're like defined, which is like why like instead of like commander spoilers, I get more excited about like cards that do something really powerful, right? Like I keep hoping for like a really powerful white or green card that kind of like breaks open the meta a little bit more, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's cleave.
I think I agree a lot with that. I think colors are really kind of what people should be focusing on. And I think that's why you see things like partners are so apparent, not just because the mechanic is broken, but also because like you can just pick your color combination with nuance based on what you wanted to do.
It's like, what do my commanders bring to enhance what these colors already do well, right? Like the easiest example I'll keep going back to is Grixis, right? Breach with Black Tutors is really messed up, right? People are like, I don't think, I think most people who are entrenched in the format understand, but maybe people newer to the format don't understand. They're like, oh, well, you need LED and Brain Freeze and Breach. It's like, no, you just cast a Black Tutor, you get the Breach, you cast the Breach, you escape the Black Tutor, and you start piecing together the other cards. It's not okay. It's completely broken. And green and white don't really have something like that, right? You don't have this thing where like I've tutored once and now suddenly I've just won the game, right?
No,
like
it's very
and Breach does it from very low amounts of mana, and green they have to develop more. They have to work harder to find certain cards out of their deck without black, and I think that's just where we are at in the meta right now. There are a few exceptions like Niv and cedh that do a very uniquely powerful thing where they can kind of break the rules there. But even cedh, I think if Dockside did not exist, it would be much harder to play cedh.
100%. That
So
instant ritual ability of just being able to get this burst of mana and allowing you to just do what you were going to do over the course of so many turns immediately is it's so great. It's the reason why Corval Bad Nas is a thing. It's the reason why all of these decks kind of have, you said it yourself, Thacia's Dargo.
Right. There's so many combos with Dockside because Dockside is broken, Breach is broken, Oracle is highly efficient. Like the cards that combo with Oracle are still good by themselves. They're basically tutors. There's risk involved to them, but they are tutors. And so all these efficient things that our format revolves around, you really want to enhance those things unless your commander does something really, really busted. They're not that many. Like they haven't printed really, really busted commanders. They've kind of like backed off of that ever since they quote unquote messed up with partners or whatever. So I think until we get like some kind of really hyper busted green or white wing con or like an easier way to get Hulk out or just anything like that, it's hard to argue away from Dockside. We saw Dockside do work in the game 1 of finals, and the card is just he had like 20 treasures and he used every single one of them. He went down to like 1 treasure at one point, and I was just like, the only reason this is happening is because of Dockside. When people are like, I want to play a non-red deck, I'm like, I want Dockside in my deck. I'm sorry. You could have to give me a good argument.
Yeah, and if you're not playing red, like you said earlier, way earlier in the video we're talking about, like, then you're playing copy things to take advantage of other people's Dockside if it shows up in the pod. So
the card's way too good. Okay, my opponent accelerated a bunch of mana, right? Like, let's say everyone played like 2 rocks or something. And like, okay, I'm so far behind, right? No, I'm Dockside for 6, and I'm right here. I'm potentially winning the game. Like, and I'm like, oh, will someone stop me? And then the non-red player is like, haha, copy your Dockside win. Like, it's just it's kind of where we're at the moment. I've seen this card ritual for like ritual. It even batteries mana. Like I've seen casual players cast it for like 20, and like we think this is okay. Like the card is just insane.
It's crazy. And that's the takeaway from the invitation. Dockside good. If you
very good.
Wondering, is it control winner? No, it's Dockside. Dockside.
That's what I say. Like, if you can hinder people on mana or like counter Dockside or get rid of the trigger, which is a lot more niche and like doesn't make those cards good. Unfortunately, it's difficult. Like it's hard to do it. You can't remove it. You can remove it in response to like a copy effect, but like it's hard. It's hard to deal with. Card's fucked up.
Yeah. Indeed. But yeah, that's where we're at with the meta overall. I think other things we saw over the weekend, Orcish Bowmasters, how that warped. We talked a lot about that on commentary. When it was on the board, it warped a lot of games.
Really good. I think it puts like decks that need creatures kind of away. You don't really want to play them, right? Like I think they're still playable, but it definitely makes them much worse. Because like a lot of the format also revolves around Ristic draws and Mystic draws and other carded engines like the One Ring, Talion. We have all these like off by turn draw effects, and as the creature deck, you can just get punished by like not your draw, right? Like because we can target anything. One of my friends, Dan, was like, "Oh well, I wish it would like only ping the things of the person drawing, right?" Which might have made sense for multiplayer, but it was designed for a modern set, right? So it's pretty messed up. I think it adds a really cute secondary win con to Grixis piles where you can like wheel and kill everybody with Bowmasters out. I've done it before. as like a backup plan. It's not the worst. When you've run out of everything else, then you're in the late game. It's the card is quite good. It also makes an additional body for like sacrificing, which is really nice. Another body for 2-minute attack. The card, I'm very impressed with the card. I thought it'd be good,
absolutely.
and it's as good as I thought it would be. So
Absolutely, yeah. Especially when the person who has the draw engine on the board and the Orcish Bowmaster's controller link up and are like, okay, cool, we could just kind of clear this
yeah, we
board
can
out.
just clear all our problems. All our problems can be cleared away. You and I, we can work together. Like,
yeah, that is usually when I personally think that card is the best, is when people actually are like, let's use this one card to the best of its advantage. Let's just clear out the board, everything else. We can shoot face, we can pressure life totals, we can do everything.
yeah, and then the funniest thing is that like, okay, I can answer your Bowmaster with my Bowmaster. What's the answer? Bowmaster is my Bowmaster. Crazy, yeah.
The
I
Spider-Man
think,
meme, they're just funny.
yeah, they're playing each other. You.
Yeah.
Yeah, the card is good. I like the good colors continue to get good cards, and green just doesn't, right. Like casual commander focuses around these cultivate effects and these slow build up and this slow advantage where like oh well, green is really good, but in our format it's like green's fine. It's not
Green is
like
okay.
it doesn't really do anything. It tutors for creatures. That's what it's good at.
That's what it's good.
If you need to tutor for creatures, you can run green, right? Like that, and I think that's where the strength of green is. Unfortunately, I think like Oracle is just better than all of those options. Like, and even if it wasn't Oracle, I've been having this argument. I'd be like, oh, we should ban Oracle. I'm like, I mean, like, yes and no. Like Breach is better. Like it's generally going for Breach wins anyway. And I say, I think if you ban Oracle, you actually like hurt Dimir decks the most. Because Dimir decks don't really have a good way to win outside of Oracle. Because then you have to go into Labman Jace, which requires this extra setup. Like
terrible. I
need more mana. I need a draw effect. I think you actually hurt the low color Dimir decks, whereas Grixis probably they would care a little bit, usually like in a stacks out game you're pivoting into Oracle, but if I can win with Breach, it doesn't matter. Oracle doesn't really even need to be in my deck. I can just put a Jace into play, or I can like mill you, which if you're in your fair terms, obviously doesn't work, but there are other options. I will find a way to win. I have everything available to me. And like Oracle is a very specific card in my deck, and it's unnecessary. I think you hurt the Dimir next if you get rid of it. So I just don't think it's that much of a problem, honestly.
100%. I agree. Most of the time, if I'm playing any type of Grixis pile, Breach is what I'm going for. The Oracle is a backup, or it just happens. Like I just happen to piece it together.
It happens, or you've pivoted to it because we have stacks X effect in play. Like I don't like. It's very risky to just go all in on Oracle in early turns if it's not like just given to you in your hand. So
100%. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. We've talked about the Invitational. Overall, I think it was a great event. Definitely was fun.
I had a great time. I learned that commentary is super fun. I hope you guys see me on more commentary. I loved it.
You're good at it, so I assume that we will. 100%. Thank you guys so much for listening. Before we go, we wanted to give you guys the question of the day, which is, what's been your favorite cEDH event this year and why? What about you, Alana? What's up with your favorite event?
Right now it's probably the Invitational, just because I did something I don't usually do at events. Right, I'm grinder. I usually am playing, so it was really different to like. At first, I was like kind of down. Right, I was like, oh man, I want to be playing. Like, I want to be competing. I want to, I want to be in these games. I want to be playing against people for like actual stakes. And then I started commenting. I was like, oh, this is really fun, actually. Wait a minute. I'm good. Never mind. You guys can play. I'll talk about you playing. Like, so it was really fun for me. I am going to Top Tech Expo next week, then 2 weeks or whatever. So maybe that will bump it up because it'll be a big event and it'll be really fun. But I really enjoyed the Invitational campaign. It was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I agree. I'd say if I had to pick something that was not the Invitational, I genuinely did enjoy the Cookout as well.
That was super fun.
Yeah, Cookout was really fun.
I had a decent amount of like RNG frustrating games, so that like colored it a bit for me, right? Like nothing to do with like anyone else, just my deck literally being like, oh, I need one tutor to win here. And I have seen 30 cards, no tutor. I'm just like,
No
what?
tutor.
Like
Yeah.
my full deck is tutors. Like what do you mean there's no tutor in these tutor cards? Like so.
Why are these all lens?
Yeah,
What's happening?
what do cards have no text? So and then a couple other aren't like there's another one where like I needed one counter spell, didn't draw a single one, and I had like 20 cards in hand. I was like, what? Excuse me? Like so situations like that where I was a bit salty, but you know, otherwise it was very fun.
It's moments like that where I'm always like looking at my deck and I'm like, am I trash? What is happening? And it's like, nah.
Right? Like what did I like jostle you too much in my backpack deck? Like are you unhappy with me? Like yeah. Oh, that is very funny.
Yeah. But yeah, make sure to give us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast aggregator. You'd be surprised at how much it helps. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and more. All of the links are in the description below. And yeah, that wraps it up. Tune in next time when we talk about more cedh and our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Alana, for being here. We enjoy having you here. Yeah, and we will see you next time.